a long time passed since Bastion Balthazar Bax saved Fantasia by yelling the name of his mother in a very, very incoherent way under a rainstorm. But what happened afterward? Some say that he terrorized a bunch of bullies with the lag dragon, Falcor. But those might be just rumors. What happened actually is that he might have actually decided to visit Fantasia by himself, but the records of this become sketchy. Some say he became a tyrannical ruler and needed some discipline, so to speak. Others said that instead retired with his father and actually learned how to plant his feet on the ground. Others instead believe that he wished for a spray can, among other things, and unfortunately, that is today's tale. Welcome, everyone, to NeverEnding Story 2, the next chapter. Released in the year of 1990 by the director George Miller, T, which is, like I hinted, in a couple of years later, will make a movie called Zeus and Roxanne that tells the very charming tale of a dog falling in love with a dolphin. That's not the most creepy part of it. But we're not here for that today.
That's a movie.
We're here for the next chapter of NeverEnding Story 2. Admittedly, there is potential. The first movie ended at the roughly halfway point, and there was an entire portion of the story to adapt. Unfortunately, again, the entire, pretty much the entire crew had nothing to do with this movie. Although, if I recall correctly, maybe the animatronic and puppetry is kind of like the same because the practical effects are still relatively good so far. Trust me, we haven't seen how bad they can get, thankfully. But let's just say that the story takes a very drastic turn compared to the book. Anyway, let's not be too much around the bush. Start before the silent, for some reason, no Casablanca jingle or Looney Tunes one, the silent Warner Bros. Logo that is right about before the movie starts. In 3, 2, 1, click.
I'll admit.
So, who actually has seen this movie among you?
Me, ages ago. I'll admit, I've got a soft spot for this movie. I think it's fine. It's not amazing like the first movie, and it does have problems, but I feel like it works fine enough as a sequel that was made years after the original, so they have to replace half the cast.
As you know, audience, the reason why I picked the first NeverEnding Story all those years ago as an Halloween pick was because I was, and still is, extremely terrorized by the wolf, the interdimensional Lovecraftian demon in wolf format that is Gmork, But I know what you're thinking. Why would you pick this one also for Halloween? Well, this really doesn't have that much, but, it's more of a tangential piece. So let's just say that it's an appetizer of the real star of the show that we haven't seen yet.
Which, ironically, is more tied into Halloween, but we'll get to that.
And by the way, outside of one person, everyone is being recasted in this, and poorly at that. Bastion doesn't look like he did in the first movie, and before you ask, not much time has passed since the events of the first movie, so it's not even a case of rapid aging. His father looks nothing like he did in the first movie. And
Derek Meddings, I recognise that name.
Sorry? Yeah.
Derek Meddings, I recognise that name. He was a he was a well-renowned miniature effects guy.
Basically, Pix, this is a sequel. The first movie adapted the first half of the original novel. This one's covering the second half of the original novel.
Since Pix actually, graced us with her presence for the first movie, might as well, repeat the effort. God, these credits are going so long. I know that it's starting to sound like cinema scenes,
directed by George Miller, yeah, sure.
Where's the tea? Show me the tea, goddammit.
Yeah.
Also, disgusting burger. Yeah, Bastion immediately, you can tell the difference. Yeah, you can tell immediately the difference in Bastion. If I understand correctly, yeah, Jonathan Brandis plays Bastion. If I understand correctly, yeah. We talked a bit about him in the past, if I recall correctly. He was in the It miniseries. I remember that. Let me see. Also, this music. This is not at all like the classic
No, it's
American
not.
composed.
This is the main. This is the main problem with the movie. All of the serious tone and the overall was replaced with typical '90s antics.
I know we're gonna get the first movie's theme for the credits for the first part of the credits, but that's kind of it. And yeah, that's Bastion's father again, completely unrecognizable. Played by John Wesley Shipp.
Okay, his dad's reaction was so mild. Like my dad would have been screaming and beating us. Like
Jesus.
Oh,
And
that's
this apparently was
Bastion
his.
for you.
Oh god, this was apparently his first movie role. Up until this
also,
point, he had done a bunch of TV stuff.
his dad basically just did the equivalent of "Oh, you."
That was weird.
Alright, to be fair, Paige, I mean, we know it is typical 90s stuff now, but yeah, the decade literally started when this song came out, so...
Yeah,
Also-
most parents would not react that mildly.
Yeah.
Lucky kid. Also, I'll admit, while I can tell most actors don't look the same, I don't remember the dads look in the original as much. Although
He had a mustache and less hair, I can tell you that.
Yeah, this was another typical thing that happened in movies around this time, where teachers, for whatever reason, were allowed to be incredibly abusive to students.
And guess what?
He may not be this.
Go up there
sorry.
now.
I got on Pixar.
He may not be the same Bastion, but I bet they probably picked him because his eyes are super pretty.
Potentially, and again, the It miniseries had been, was in production or it was already been released, so probably because also of that success. It's worth noting because, again, Jonathan Brandis, unfortunately, was one of those child actors who unfortunately had a very troubled adulthood and ultimately, unfortunately, took his own life. And yeah, unfortunately, the conflict of this movie is Bastion overcoming his fear of heights. Not even kidding.
his fear is so in depth that it puts him into a green screen.
Well, this is the 90s.
Yeah,
though. I
it's
think
him imagining it.
Yeah.
You know, to be fair, the high dive is really scary.
But Pedro has a point. Yes, the teachers will actually, psychologically torture. Yeah, everybody point at him and laugh.
Yeah,
Who
what
the
a
fuck
win.
are you? Like, Jesus.
Yeah, this is something that I never understood from movies around this time. Like, where did this trope even come from?
Possible.
I get the feeling this was written. I get the feeling this was written by people who really hated their teachers, and this is their way of coping.
Honestly,
I can tell
this
you
was
this-
not even a thing that was exclusive to the 90s. We saw this as early as the 70s, arguably.
Excuse me, but did he cook the pizza in the microwave? Yeah.
God.
Gonna say that was microwave pizza. What? How? Why?
And that's
It's
the
not
one
even
disgusting
leftover
pizza I've
takeaway.
ever saw one.
It's not even leftover takeaway pizza or anything.
Yeah, no, you oven fry your pizza.
Like, okay. Bastion is responding to his dad as if he's afraid of him, but his dad seems like the chillest dad on earth. He's literally like
Yeah.
destroyed the house, destroyed dishes, left foot all over the place.
Okay.
So he came home and he did the equivalent of "Oh, you."
Okay.
There was that weird thing about in the first movie how Bastion's father, despite not being angry, you can tell that he had a bit of authority, a bit of an aura, against him. Told him, you need to plant your feet on the ground, stop thinking about childish fantasies.
This guy gives me like stepdad energy that's trying to be like, "Hey, champ, I know I'm not your real dad, but I could be your best friend."
Basically. Also, to answer you, Pedro, I don't know much of it, but I can tell you that while he was in elementary school, I had a swimming teacher that was exactly dickish like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I can tell that over here, teachers acting like that will get fucking fired.
I don't know if I can always.
I understand you, Pedro. I just wish it was actually more common.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even get why Bastion is like upset right now. Like, okay, he didn't do the high dive.
I think it's more of a case of, his own insecurities manifesting, maybe potentially him over-exaggerating, his own fear, and
He has
snowball
pizza.
effect.
He lives in a comfortable home.
Then again, this is, once again, I have to remind, this is from the director of Zeus and Roxanne, so me thinks it's not, potentially that deep, unfortunately.
His dad loves him unconditionally.
Okay, I'll explain what's going on here. It's not so much that he's afraid of his dad, but as we saw from the first movie, he and his dad don't have the best of relationships after his mom died, essentially.
His mother, yeah.
It's not so much that he's afraid of his dad, but he feels like he's a disappointment to his father, in the sense...
Okay, that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to the kid playing Bastion in this movie, but his acting earlier in the kitchen scene comes more across like he can barely remember the lines and is uncomfortable acting rather than just being torn.
I can tell you that it works so much better in the miniseries because the kid that he has to portray was a very shy type of kid. Also, is that a flight iron building? It was very potentially shy, and as such, that kind of acting worked better there.
Like, to give him credit, like, the first scene
This guy's a pretty good actor, actually.
Oh yeah, I honestly think he's fine in this movie.
Also, for more continuity fuckery, the library is not in the same position in the city, probably because of filming contracts.
So, was this in the 90s?
Yes.
Literally at the start, 1990.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Like, okay.
I first saw this in the 2000s.
To give Brandis credit, for the first scene we see him in, it's not so much he's supposed to be torn, it's like, well, he's trying to prove that, he can handle stuff on his own, like making meals for the fam and whatnot, but obviously that didn't go so well.
Then.
And yeah, the one returning actor, if I recall correctly, is the librarian.
Yeah.
Let me check. Yeah, Thomas Hill. There you go.
Does he return in the third movie?
No.
Well, the character
he gets recasted
does.
in that one too. The character, yes, but it's basically the movie where everyone is recast, and once again, everyone look not at all like they should be.
By the way, boy, how did your plastic surgery go?
Probably better than my second one will.
Will is actually a cool word because Bastion in the third movie will be played by a kid, but he was in Free Willy, I think 3.
You had plastic surgery?
It's a joke.
Oh.
It's my joke.
Shining on it.
It's my basically Pixie. It's my running joke for when it's supposedly the same character, yet they look completely different.
Anyway, since we didn't talk about it, budget 25 million, box office 17.4.
So how did this get a sequel?
I love the sparkle effects on it. It's so pretty.
Again, the practical effects are probably the best thing about this movie because they still are on a quality that resembles the most or tries to get there with the first movie. It's with the third that everything,
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm looking forward to the third movie.
Oh, in due time.
I remember this one, like in the memory machine. But
Okay.
The third one, I don't think I ever saw, and I don't think I want to.
Oh, you're in for a wild ride with that one. But for now, let's tackle this one.
And yeah,
why was a single letter taking up half the page?
It's cool, Shira. Shut up. And yeah, also the thing. You know how in the first movie the whole idea that the book, literally the story, unfolds as someone reads it and you become actually part of it. Was mentioned in a very subtle way and was basically the big twist at the end. Here, they literally spell it out for you at the beginning because they think you're too stupid to not understand, apparently.
I think Bastion would probably be better off reading the Magic School Bus.
No. You see, Pix, the NeverEnding Story, that is what helps Bastion out massively.
Frankly, I'm reminded instead of
I know, I'm making a joke.
Frankly, I'm reminded of that episode of Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy, I forgot what specifically happens, but a character is jumping from book to book, and if he gets into a book called Astrophysics for Dummies, it could change literally everything.
Honestly, I think this kid would be cursed if he wrote a novelization of Pingu.
But yes.
No, James, don't you see? He's the one who wrote the Walrus Nightmare episode. But yeah, now the Orion is a stop motion, I guess.
Honestly, that looked pretty cool too. Although I missed the sparkles. Okay. You want to try again? You want to try again, movie? Because that was not believable in the slightest.
Technology being what they had, unfortunately.
He's just like, this is mine now.
To give him
Yoink.
to give him credit for the time, those effects were probably amazing.
Oh,
Doubt
God,
it.
What is this? What's this lettering? It's like I'm reading House of Leaves again. Yeah,
Didn't they also change the childlike empress?
yes,
They
like
had
I said,
to
everyone
because
is
a lot
recasted.
of the
I forgot if the Rock Bider is the same voice actor or not, but I don't know.
Sorry, I forgot. Her name is Moonchild.
Yes,
named after
that's her
Bastion's
new
own
name,
mother.
yes, that's the new name that Bastion gave her at the end of a previous movie.
His mom's name was
Wee.
Moonchild. Really makes you wonder. But yes,
where the-
now
Just
we're
call her
back.
Luna like every other author.
She might have been
Exactly.
a flower. She might have been a flower child. Like her parents might have named her that.
And yeah, I don't know where Bastion manages now to actually
Okay.
get inside the book. Again,
This,
so
the
go.
silver and gold version of the Orin is probably my favorite version right there.
Neat. But yes,
Again, so go on, Jova.
Bastion finally gets to go inside the book himself. This did happen at the tail end of the first half of the book. Like,
Yes, but it was a bit more. It was actually better, handled. Having basically attained a new conscience, essentially Bastion ascended to a new level, and the entire point is that it had big consequences because Bastion started abusing his power, being a child and everything. And the entire point of the second half was for the characters to actually rein him in. They tried
He
to
actually-
do something like this in this movie, but you'll see.
He actually seemed like a lot more unfamiliar with Orin and the book this time around.
Also, yes, that's our villain from the movie.
If this is not literally okay,
Big Bird's cousin?
No.
she literally didn't have her face on yet.
she had
I
to
know
put
what
her
I
face
know what you're doing, movie.
That's
Okay.
that's basically the entire point. Yes, Pedro?
Okay, I have to say, no, that is not a NeverEnding Story character. That's a character from Sesame Street right there.
Yeah.
that
The
bird.
bird.
Yeah, that's why- that's why,
That bird doesn't even look remotely as good as the puppets from the.
Yeah, that's-
Well, yeah,
that's
it's a person
Yeah,
in
that's,
a
that's
it's a
why,
person
that's
in
why
a
I said he
costume.
looks like Big. That's why I said he looks like Big Bird's
Actually,
cousin.
make it
It's a
make
person
it,
in a costume.
make it more Power Rangers because again, our villain is more like Vitra Repulsa and her henchmen are more like this. Anyway, that's basically the point of the movie.
King Dice.
This scientist that works for this villain created a machine that interferes with the usage of Orin. Every time Bastion will use it to make a wish,
It takes a piece of his memory.
the machine for some reason will extract a piece of his memory and however techno magic that works, I suppose.
Oh, you don't need to do that to make his head empty. Just get him addicted on video games. There you
Well,
go.
Of
it's
course.
it's powered by memories to make wishes.
Anyway, our main villain, this Count Rita Repulsa here, is played by Clarissa Burt, which doesn't have too much of a filmography, admittedly.
She's also giving. Oh, sorry.
That scientist looks like a character from Pee Wee's Playhouse.
She's also giving like a Zaya from Hyrule Warriors.
Oh God, that green
Beta.
screen in that shot earlier
Mhm.
that looked terrible.
The bird is called Nimbly and is played by Martin Umbach, which I
I-
think is a German actor.
I think it's interesting that he's like a giant chick. Like he's not like a full-grown bird. He's like a baby bird.
I think the first suit effect, plume suit effect, I guess, could
Yeah,
have
it's
been
down.
worse. Could have been worse.
It's
I like the idea that instead of giving the character googly eyes, they try to make still that the face of the actor is still visible underneath to give a bit more expression. Also, yes, for some reason now the capital has the entire city on a lake of acid. So, Birdley here wants to tease Bastion into try to make a logical wish, make the water better for everyone.
You have Orin.
It's
Orin's not
big
pretty in
Orin.
this one.
You're kind of missing one or two articles, my dude. Anyway, the scientist called Triface, literally that's his name, he's a Power Rangers character, played by Christopher Burton.
I will agree with Tio that I do think that the effects in here are actually neat. Now, to be fair to Nimbly, he's apparently a character from the book, so for all I know, this is what he's supposed to look like.
There is
Was he covered in really light downy feathers in the
I
book
forgot
too?
about that. It's been a long time since I read the book. But the point is that also you have to understand this is one of the adaptations in name only, where there's a general idea, some key characters and some key events of the book will be present and will happen. But most of the story itself is something told that tells its own thing.
I will say,
I'd love to live in this city.
yeah, I will say, to give it credit, I think they get the overall idea right, that Bastion comes into the book around the second half, but, you know, the other force, in this case Zaida, tries to essentially use him to her own advantages overall. How that's done is a bit different.
She represents emptiness in this time around.
Yes. She's called the emptiness. Basically, whereas the nothing was the absolute eradication of the story, the emptiness was essentially the death of childhood imagination. Wherein the story was still there, but it would be devoid of the life.
Like her purpose is to hollow out the imagination and childlike power that it has.
And to give this movie credit, I think it works with that.
Which is why she's targeting the childlike empress.
Yep. And to this movie's credit, I think it works with it actually well. And then there's the villain of the third film.
We'll get to that, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, what happened?
We'll get to that.
Also,
wouldn't you guys want to live here, though?
Oh yeah,
I guess the lake of acid is good for to dispose of trash, I suppose.
We love all these different kinds of existentialism.
Again, with the Power Rangers motif, we have these Beetleborgs rejects.
Big bad Beetleborgs.
That will probably like these guys. They really do exhume Kamen Rider energy.
And surprisingly, there's not a single character in this movie voiced by Bryan Cranston.
Come back!
So yeah, premise-wise, I have to agree with Jova. There is actually a good solid foundation to do it. The problem is in the execution. Again, the movie is technically, you can tell that the writer had to, or writers, I forgot how many of these are here, had to tether on a thin line. Essentially, again, the conflict is that Bastion is supposed to make wishes to save his life or save the life of his friends.
That was a really good skid.
The problem is that, as you will see across the movie, for either contrived reason or general stupidity, Bastion really doesn't do much.
Yeah, like, okay, take this scene for example. Like, as Nimbly's saying, wish them away, but he doesn't. Now, granted, if he knew about...
no logical explanation why he should refuse.
Like, okay, if he knew about the memory erasing machine, that would make sense why he limits his wishes, but he doesn't at this point.
No, he does not.
It's good that Nimbly decided to help him anyways.
There's also the fact that the first 20 minutes of this movie are not at all like the first ones, where there's no setting atmosphere, there's no... the movie has yet to establish a proper through line of what exactly the main plot is going to be. It's just like... this entire sequence feels very superfluous. What's
the reason for the... Sorry.
It feels a lot like the movie's just kind of filibustering right now, even though we're only 20 minutes in. Go on.
But that's the reason for the acid lake.
Yeah.
Bastion said there must be a reason for it. There it is.
Yeah, again,
right, so what is the reason then, Bastion?
I guess for, recycling trash.
Well, I was gonna say, it's meant to protect the city.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. As a defense
I
mechanism.
call this kid bold and brash.
All right, and I will say, and I have a bad, to quote Han Solo, I have a bad feeling about this, but there are far more screen time effective ways of conveying that.
What the fuck am I watching?
What? Was this a character from
it's a good job.
Not that I remember. Go on, Dweebs.
It's a good job I'm not eating ice cream at the minute.
Yeah. Also, we're in Grouchland, I guess.
Because she literally because she literally looks like the ice cream I had earlier.
Did I just pass the frog fog gate and need to fight these people?
That's so specific.
Literally.
I love how her clothes are constantly floating upwards, even though there's no wind.
She's like an anime character.
We did that in Freedom Planet too, also with the Magister.
Let me guess.
It's cooler that way.
Let me guess.
It is cooler that way.
Let me guess. Earth, air, fire,
Mud.
which I guess
Heart.
is supposed to represent
Again.
the water.
What they're explaining is that once again, some shit is happening to Fantasia, and the representative of races are trying to, seek the help of a child empress, but in this case, more out of a Bastion.
It's just giving Elmo and Grouchland right now, though.
Hey, I remember that tower from the original film.
Oh God, what happened to the Moonchild?
She poofed out her hair.
She's playing this by Alexandra Jones.
She also looks like older. Isn't she supposed to be childlike?
Literally, that's supposed to
This
be.
is the youngest. This is the youngest actress we could find with our budget, I guess.
She didn't. Okay, she had a medium-size filmography, but she kind of stopped in 2007. She was
No offense.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah,
No offense,
Sorry.
but they could have just had Bastion dress up as the childlike empress and they do a better job.
yeah, that's just look at her face. Like, even though she's technically a young person, her face looks like it belongs to a 30 to 40-year-old woman.
How old
was
is the
thinking 30
character
to
supposed
40.
to be?
I'm getting there. The
Sorry.
character is supposed to be childlike, so let's just say between 8 and 12 years. Let's be generous.
This
Although,
this looks like an adult.
I
the
Yeah,
actress,
that's what I thought too.
the actress,
Like, even when I was a kid. Sorry.
the actress was 14 when this movie was made.
will say, okay, I will say this, and this is definitely more of a headcanon answer, but technically in the world we could say that stuff changed to reflect the new reality that Bastion made.
Okay,
Okay.
now
I guess.
Sorry,
That is very much a headcanon answer, don't get me wrong, but to be fair, NeverEnding Story has established that it's a very imagination-based world that does tend to be affected by Bastion's mindset.
It's just weird because, it's like they're messing up key elements that they set up in the first movie already.
Oh, trust me, Pixie,
Speaking
just
of
wait
which,
till the third film for
Our
that.
subplot that really will not go anywhere is Bastion's father finding the book, actually, starting to read it and discovering
It's just like, I just feel like reading this book all of a sudden.
Yeah, and discovering what's happening to his son, and eventually, this will help us to connect, which, by the way, be ready to have that being completely forgotten for the third
You know
movie.
what I saw this movie
God, I
before,
hated
right?
that.
Sorry?
Like,
Pizza?
I know that I'm the audience surrogate right now for the people who haven't seen it, but I have seen the movie.
Anyway, though, so essentially the dealio here is that Bastion needs to give the force that is threatening this world a name. Sound familiar?
That seems to be the general problem of this universe. Like, people do not get names until a higher being descends and imposes it onto them.
They just need to get better at naming stuff on the spot.
Yeah.
But it's probably when you have to pick a character's name or a world name in a game that you turn on.
And here's Atreyu, which also has been recasted. Let me see.
Yep.
Kenny Morrison. So is this guy actually descended from natives? Nope, apparently.
Wait, hold on, let me see.
Oh,
But I was gonna say, even when I was a kid, I recognized that the childlike empress was more like an adult.
mm-hmm.
The thing is the weird thing. Nimble is supposed to have a character arc where he starts as a villain for the emptiness, but for some reason he decided to defect towards Bastion, because I'm guessing he's moved by the compassion and the goodness of his
Yeah.
heart. The
Like, he
problem
was
is that-
trying to trick him into wishing the giants away, but he's just like, you know what? There's a rope here. I'll just help him. Also, it was a really glittery rope. I wanted to say earlier. I liked it.
Also, who
Neat.
put Vaseline on the border? I will argue, however, that oh god, the blue screen.
Green
I
screen,
know,
yeah.
right?
The arc is not as well, portrayed as it should be. And there you go, first Rish. Also, we're in Minority Report now.
Okay, so here's the ironic thing. So you may have remembered how the actor for Atreyu in the last film didn't really look Native American. Apparently, he was a quarter Mohican, whereas Kenny Morrison here, who does look Native American, is actually of Irish, Spanish, and Filipino descent. So
He
make
meant
of that what
Jabberwocky.
you will.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that.
Neat.
Oh god, these effects. Dude.
Expose the movie's green screen, that's what I will do.
Why is Atreyu having a
Oh,
accent?
hey, Falcor.
Falcor! Again, the animatronic for Falcor at least looks at least the closest to the original. So there is
It
that.
looks okay, but you can tell there's a downgrade still.
He's voiced
I
by
don't
Donald
see it in this
Arthur.
one.
Also,
Yep.
we will...
It's the face. The face is not at all like how Falker looked in the first movie.
I think the face here is
It's been a
fine.
while
That
since I've
said,
seen the
I
first
will
movie.
I will agree with you about the first film. Hey, wait a minute! Isn't this footage from the first movie?
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Like
it's like the Swan Princess sequels. Like
I
the
was,
first
I was,
two.
I was
The
gonna say,
first two specifically.
I was gonna say Superman 4 pager of them reusing effects.
But now, seriously, look, Atreyu looks like how he did in the first film in that shot.
Original Atreyu.
Like,
He didn't even have his little like braid headband.
again.
Also, complete a musical tone whiplash. This is about they're trying to make it a whimsical moment, but we're like technically chasing a dangerous monster and trying to stop him.
Although we are getting pretty scenery while it's going about.
I
so-
get that, but I think it should be. If you want to have these whimsical moments, don't make it about chasing this blob robot thing.
I feel like
Woo!
we should have a more exciting, slightly tense track for this.
I'm fine with the
Speaking of
track
which,
that's
we haven't talked about the composer. Go ahead, Joel. I'll mention later.
right. Yeah, I'm fine overall with the score of this movie. As for the composer,
Robert
that would
Folk.
be.
All right, I mentioned this while we were getting ready for the movie. He composed the entirety of the Police Academy franchise, and from the scattered memories that I have of seeing those, I'm not impressed in terms of his score capabilities.
I think his score for this movie is actually
so-
good. I haven't
this
seen the
guy is
Police
to you
Academy
what-
films.
I think
So
the issue with
basic-
Falcor for me is that his voice sounds so deep.
So basically, Tio, this guy is to you what Leonard Rosenman is to me.
I guess.
Oh hey,
Like he didn't
look,
sound like
the
this
Rock
in the original.
Fighter.
Fighter.
Oh, and the rock battle actually looks good. Enjoyed that while that's
For
the
now,
case.
yeah.
He's voiced by Dan Fincher.
They could have gotten Vin Diesel.
I don't think
It
people
would
know
be
who he was in
fitting, considering
1990.
the entire arc that he got in this movie is that he actually has a family now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they're using the same puppet, or if not, it's a very convincing replica.
Oh God!
Oh God!
Rock baby.
Aww.
Please don't let them breathe.
Oh no, fucking oh! That just kill that thing like that.
No,
thing is cursed
that's
as
me.
shit.
No,
Grinding.
like here he actually looks cute. Now that
He's a
being,
baby.
now that being said, what they do with him in the third film, yeah, burn that crap down. But
Also, you can tell that rock that he was munching was made of glass instead of rock.
Parent of the year, chewing in
In front of
You
him,
know,
on top of his child.
on top
The
of his
baby was-
child.
Baby was just trying to share their food with him.
yeah,
That is a gorgeous butterfly.
Ow. Oh, Jesus. Also, yes, for some reason in this movie there's this gimmick. When Falcor gets pissed or mildly annoyed, his eyes turn this bloodshot red out of nowhere.
now
I never noticed that.
I'm not sure if that was a thing from the book because the
I don't
miniseries.
remember.
Because the miniseries, yes, there was a NeverEnding Story miniseries, does actually emphasize how dangerous luck dragons can be when they're pissed off. So maybe
Okay,
that was an
this is
aspect in the
literally-
book.
This is literally just the plot from Ocarina of Time.
Wait, what year did Ocarina of Time come out?
Later.
98.
To be
Years after
fair,
this, actually.
they never, Nintendo made never, any secrets of that, that for Zelda we took inspiration from a lot of things and just mashed them together.
Yep.
So they were inspired by NeverEnding Story, you think?
Yeah,
the Gorons.
I could see that being the
Potentially.
case.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have direct evidence, but I'm still to this day pretty
The
convinced that it was inspired by the rock
The
biter.
idea of a race of giants who live in the mountains and actually eat rocks for subsistence is relatively common when it comes to old folklore. So yeah.
I will say this: somebody must have had fun making Zaida's wardrobe for this movie, because
Yeah, but they needed to change her makeup. Her eyebrows need to be like done because they're not. They need
Like
to be
I said,
plucked.
this entire villain shtick does remind me of Power Rangers because the costume design between
Like the whole.
Sorry, go on.
Okay, like the whole thing that like she was like she literally couldn't be seen until she put her face on was clever, but a little bit misogynistic. But
I wouldn't.
like even when her face is done, it's not done.
I wouldn't go as far to say
I
that
don't
that's
get it.
misogynistic, honestly.
It feels like a boomer joke, like, oh, you know how girls can't be seen without their makeup.
There's a deeper meaning.
There's no
behind
real
that.
other reason for them to do that. Like,
Yeah.
otherwise, like, it's, yeah.
I think it's more of okay. I'm
It
not
feels
sure.
like a vanity thing that a lot of like female
Potentially.
villainesses are given.
I think it might be an unfortunate, thing that's added onto it because the entire shtick about the emptiness is more the idea of the lack of an identity, and as such settles onto one of them. It's slightly similar to what Final Fantasy III lore-wise has for the Cloud of Darkness, the idea that it's an entity without a clear, physical form, but when they manifest, in the case of the game, they manifest in the form of a woman surrounded by, snakes.
Yeah,
I guess I mean to say that that's how it resonates with me.
Okay.
I
No, no, sure,
I honestly just see it as essentially the movie representing how hollow she is in that regard, to the point where
Didn't
she is
the
that
villain
empty.
of Return to Oz also had the same gimmick?
No.
Yes.
No. She had different heads to put on. What?
Also, yes. Here's for some trolling. Again, Bastion Faber returns the book to the the librarian, but for some mindfuckery, the property minor plique in the book completely disappears, and the librarian, who knows exactly what this kind of shit is, gaslights the fuck out of Bastion's father.
That is actually completely in character for the librarian.
Yes,
like he
Even
loves.
in the original book, the librarian is described as this mysterious figure who could be a wizard, could be not. It's never outright explained. It's the classic kind of, teasing that deliberately doesn't tell you information because it's just better that way.
If I recall correctly, the miniseries pretty much outright states that the librarian is a wizard who can go in between worlds or whatnot.
That was the idea of figures that can travel between, Fantasia and the real world is a thing that's established as soon as the main book, because that was the entire gimmick of Gmork. It was not just a simple wolf; it was an actual agent who could take even a human form and convince people in the real world to stop having dreams, and as a result, power up the void instead. That was the entire thing.
He's a very Grecian character, like Grecian folklore.
Also, the Paramount logo.
I'm actually really impressed how that baby is so big, but like moves like a baby, even though there's like an actor in it.
Yeah, it's probably an actor of short stature in it.
Yeah, again, like I actually do like the costume and effects work here. Like
I said,
it feels
there's
like
a degree of trying. That you can tell that they were still trying with this one.
So are they playing with perspective then, or is it like green screened?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's a
Potentially
mixture
both,
of all the above.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
I do
also
dig how part of Zaida's palace is an evil-looking hand.
It's really shaped like a hand. It's like Yami from Okami.
What were we gonna say, Pedro?
The hand of the devil from the second Dragon Ball movie.
Is that the one with
Or
the
God's
vampire?
God's thumb from Holes, but like the devil version.
The one with Lucifer. Yes, very good, Jova. But this is another problem, by the way. Like, might as well bring it up. This is the other one of the major problems with this movie. In fact, from a script writing standpoint, is the fact that they give Bastion the power to wish for anything. That's like, from a script writing standpoint, that's the best way to deflate any tension from your story, because, well, why doesn't the hero just wish for the villain to be defeated?
I will
And that's
admit
kind
that
of
is an issue.
and again, that really creates the problem instead. That in order to circumvent that, Bastion acts a lot like an idiot throughout the entire movie, only wishing occasionally for interesting stuff. But even when logical solution would be for him to fall into temptation and wish something bad, very rarely it actually does happen. It really feels like they wrote themselves in a cul-de-sac. And again, for reference, in the second of the original book, that's kind of the entire point. Bastion is given that kind of unlimited power, and he actually abuses it to the point where the character in the story have to tell him to knock it the hell off.
Since
That's
that
why
is what
in Fairly
allowed
Odd Parents-
Zaida to eventually manipulate him.
That's why in Fairly Odd Parents they came up with the rules.
It's the same similar problem to the Twilight movies, where Alice is able to predict the future with exact precision, which basically means she literally gets used as the ultimate perfect solution at the end of the series.
See, in Steven Universe, they made a character that can predict the future, but the way that they did it is like she can see the streams of time. She can't see exactly where the future will fall, just the possibilities of it.
Yeah, that's a good limitation. Okay, if I were to play devil's advocate with this movie, they were trying to do something similar, but not exactly the same as the original story, given how there was a difference here. Like, in the original story, Bastion just goes into the book right after he saves the world.
Yeah.
In this case, though, Bastion had supposedly completed his character development with the first movie, so I guess to them, they felt like they needed to kind of come up with a new arc in that regard, since they couldn't repeat all the values from the book. Now, that is not to say that they did them well, but I can understand why they didn't want to go with the Bastion abuses his power, but I do still have to agree that making the wishes unlimited so the only reason the plot happens is because he's an idiot, yeah, that wasn't wise. Like, when you get down to it, couldn't he technically wish, I wish for Fantasia to be saved?
I guess that's too vague, though. Like, I don't know if Aaron would be able to process that.
Oh,
Even
trust
in
me,
general,
by the
from a
first...
standpoint, think of it from the thematics that even the first movie established. Bastion is supposed to be essentially a literal Deus Ex Machina, and I mean literally. He is the equivalent of the Christ figure of this universe, because he's the one that literally saved them from that with just a single fucking word. He literally, by all accounts, even if he's still a child, he has the power to wish everything and to do everything. He's just limited through his creativity. It's kind of like how, in the Green Lantern mythos, how you do make a construct with power and creativity. And then this movie comes around with him having almost no creativity whatsoever. Like,
Also, I wanted to say this a while ago, but Rockbiter said the name of the movie. We can leave now. We can go home.
Okay,
yeah, roll
okay.
credits.
Now, I do wonder if his lack of creativity is supposed to show the effects of the emptiness, given how she is essentially the death of childhood imagination overall.
Because he's supposed to be a creative person. He's supposed to be the creative force.
At the very beginning, he should have had full control, ideally. Also, they went through this arc that we're actually going through his arc that I'm really not super fan of Bastion and Atreyu essentially kind of having a sort of a cock contest with each other because they want to be basically both the alpha of the team.
It is actually neat finally getting to see them interact directly.
It's just that they go through a very predictable 90s round.
Honestly, to me, it just comes across as the writer the writer's just realizing, oh crap, we give him too much of an overpowered power. That's okay. He will. We'll make sure his wishes are tame.
That's kind of
which. While I cannot find any particular writer directly, we know one person who did the screenplay, Karin Howard, which I don't know much about.
Okay, now, maybe if we're to believe that he can't just make a general wish like I wish Fantasia was saved, he could still arguably solve this in, I'd say 3 wishes tops. 1, I wish to be brought to Zaida's fortress, or the villain's fortress overall.
Sure.
2, Okay, let's assume he knows about the memory erasing machine. I wish for that machine to disappear. And yeah, he probably wouldn't even need the third wish, essentially. Just give Zaida a name and boom, plot solved.
Libs, sorry, not the Jova. You don't even have to go that far. You can just have. I wish for the evil witch to have a fatal heart attack. There you
I love
go.
how you guys are trying to figure out ways to speedrun the NeverEnding Story, or speed read, I guess.
Well, that's just the thing. When you have a plot MacGuffin that literally gives you wishes without limitations, well, okay, granted, there is technically a limitation. Every time he makes a wish, his memory will be taken. And, if enough memories are taken, that is definitely a bad thing because that makes him all the more easier to manipulate.
Can't he,
However,
Giant skip is the easiest. Giant skip is the easiest one to pull off.
The thing is, though, even as a limitation, it doesn't work as much because Bastion doesn't know about that.
Yeah,
he
that's
just
the other
wish
bigger
for,
thing. He doesn't know about the fact that he has basically that, imposed onto him.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Right.
can't he just wait? If he known about that, he could have just wished for. I wish that my wishes don't take my memory.
Yeah, something akin to that.
Yeah, the movie doesn't really convey that that's not a possibility to use. So again, I haven't read the book, so I'm sure it's handled better in the book. But like just in the context of this movie specifically, like
It's also
the entire wishing for everything power was a massive error on part of the story writers because this creates all sorts of tension deflating problems.
It's also kind of the same reason why in the Aladdin movie they made the stipulation also the three things that Genie cannot do, kill one, kill someone, make someone else fall in love, and resuscitates the dead.
To be fair, even the original Tale of Aladdin had that limitation. Basically, there are actually two genies in the original tale. One was the genie of the ring, which did give you unlimited wishes, but they were very limited in their potency. Meanwhile, the genie of the lamp could grant almost anything, but you still only got like 3 wishes.
Yes.
You know what the giant's faces remind me of?
What?
Well,
Vampire bats.
Interesting.
I guess. Well, they're more like crustaceans, I guess.
Wait, but their faces look like vampire bats. There's definitely not crustacean faces.
Even though it's usually it's in a throwaway line tale, there's also a fourth rule that he just wasn't a throwaway line, which you can't wish for more wishes. So
fair enough, yeah, that too.
It's just like he doesn't specify it as a rule; he just uses it in a throwaway line.
Why would you even need to wish? Sorry.
No, go on.
Go on.
Why would you even need to wish for more wishes? Because you have unlimited.
No. I'm talking about the 3 wishes from Aladdin.
Oh yeah. Right. Sorry, I thought we were talking about NeverEnding Story. I tuned out.
Drill. Boom, 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 boom. I'm curious, Shiroi. You have been role-playing for a while. Has your team ever encountered the possibility of a wish? Because those tend to be relatively overpowered in the end.
Encountered what? Sorry, the movie's a bit loud.
The idea of making a wish, and I do mean a literal one. Not just a theoretical one.
I mean, one character does have something infused with the wish spell at the moment, but it has not been used yet because it's ultra specific in D&D.
Yeah, when it comes to D&D, it's a thing. Wishes are basically your get-out-of-jail-free card, but you have to be very careful with the wording, because a good DM will love how to turn that thing around for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, especially if they do the jackass genie thing of turning your wish legit right on you just to be sadistic.
Another one.
Why doesn't he just make one wish to make an elevator?
Oh, do you also do tabletop roleplay specs?
Yeah.
Neat. So that's you, me, and Shiroi.
Also, well, I used to. I haven't been done it in a while, but I used to do a lot of Pathfinder.
Ah, classic.
So yeah, now basically the movie has this idea that because Bastion was, again, kind of an idiot and decided to, push for desire for one stairs over another instead of a series of one, he has apparently lost a lot of memories, ideally.
Which, Okay. Yeah, let's talk about the stipulations here. Like, eventually they say that he'll run out of memories, but they're not exactly specific as to what constitutes as a memory he'll lose. Like, does this also count his ability to talk? Does this count his ability to count? His ability
To
to...
be fair, those are the more, profound memories of what the fuck.
Probably
is
not
Atreyu?
his formative memories. Probably
Yeah.
more like ones after his memory was solidified.
Though, to be fair, the movie doesn't specify, so again, it's a plot where he can technically wish for anything, so as far as we know...
I think that's pretty obvious though. Like if he had just suddenly lost the ability to speak or stand or walk
I mean,
or like
Maybe.
urine incontinence or something, like it would just be like
I don't...
Yeah.
It's like that
whole-
Family Guy cutaway gag. I forgot how to sit.
The whole lots of memories with every wish thing. Yeah, that's meant to be the cost, yes. But like we've said, the movie, as far as I can tell, doesn't establish that you can't wish for your memory to be restored. So that problem can be very easily circumvented.
Okay.
Once he realizes
To be
once he
fair,
realizes about the wish
again,
machine.
to be fair, yeah, he doesn't know about the memory machine, so I can at least forgive him not wishing away the memory machine just yet.
I
Sure.
can't believe what I'm about to say, but Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories had better rules and consequences about the whole memory loss thing.
Oh my god!
Well, the thing
he's
about
right.
the thing about that is that the memory loss wasn't so much a cost for anything; it was more so something that had to do with someone manipulating Sora.
Obviously.
They definitely presented it as a cost at the start of the cast, like, to gain.
But that's because
memories, you
Marluxia's
must
tricking
lose.
Sora. But that's because it's meant to be a trick, obviously, that we
To
don't know
gain
yet
is
at
to
that point.
give and or some shit like that, yeah.
These things are
to lose is to gain, and to gain is to lose too.
I
These
know,
things are
it's just-
so easily defeated every single time.
Again, they
Yeah,
really
they
are
are.
Power Rangers villains.
It's
you know,
it's
both,
great. It's great in stories where the evil
Oh, I think
henchmen
it's
are
now.
incredibly easily
Hold on,
defeated.
what is about to wish?
Why?
Why?
Wait, what did he just wish for?
A spray
A spray
can.
can.
I can.
Okay, because everyone reacting, I thought he said I wish for a Sprite.
But you want to
Oh,
know the
no,
worst
that's a
thing?
problem.
The spray can actually works.
Is
God.
this because the actor? Is this because the child actor was in the It miniseries? Is that why you're trying to do this?
Here are two
No,
more.
he's into Jet Set Radio. I was gonna say, having blatant product placement for the wishes would be hilarious.
Kinda.
That's the least of these problems. The thing, like, two more problems. One, this kid is incredibly useless and uncreative in how he uses his power, which makes it hard to root for him because he's an idiot. Like you have the ultimate godlike power, and you use it for this shit.
If wish for a sword that sets on fire permanently or some shit like that.
Dude, he had better... Honestly, he had better imagination than the movie Sidekicks.
It comes across as just the movie wants to have, again, wacky hijinks instead of trying to use this power in a way that I'm assuming in the book was used to much more interesting dramatic things.
Okay, I get why he can't really wish for like guns and that because kids.
Like I said, with swords are perfectly an alternative, if I were to be
You don't
honest.
even have to
Also-
use swords. You can just wish for the woman to just die of a fatal heart attack, Monty Python style. Problem solved. Like,
Also, honestly, it's the 90s. I'm pretty sure if anything, kids would be so into the guns.
oh sure,
Not me.
Okay,
But
laser
to be
gun.
fair, to be fair, Jova, this was early '90s. Maybe should have wished for a surfboard. Apparently, those were in vogue.
Wait, were any of us even alive when this movie
that's
came
the
out?
that line he just said. That's the first time he's used his power intelligently.
Question-
When I was even alive
okay,
when-
an obstacle. I wish for this obstacle to be removed. There you
To
go.
answer your question, Peaks, Pedro. I was born in 1991.
Okay, so you were born literally the year after this came out.
I was actually, since I actually watched the first movie as a little kid. If I remember correctly, I saw this also in the VHS or TV airing. I forgot when, but I did watch the third one in theaters. I do remember that.
Iesu Domine,
Dore
Dore
is requiem.
I love it. She just turned around very calmly to say
Well,
that.
when you're an evil villain on your throne, honestly, what's the fun of being an evil queen in a
I
throne
just
if you
am-
don't get to do this? Too?
She's just
I mean,
missing a cat.
Yeah. I just
It's like
imagined
that-
I just
Sorry.
imagined a blooper where like the candles caught her shoulder pad
Yeah.
thingy.
That thing looks like a fire hazard.
there's always a specific perk depending on which kind of villain you are. Like for example, what's the fun of being a mad scientist if you don't get to play God? You know.
Also, yes, the emptiness strategy is to basically do the exact thing Loki did in the first Avengers movie. Feign defeat, so she can, use her words to convince Bastion while being captive.
Oh really? Okay. I wish for you to free her.
Yeah, I wish that the childlike empress was freed.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the story does establish that apparently Zaid is a little more powerful than that, seeing as how she is the main antagonist of the story, after
Why does
all.
she need Bastion?
You say that, Jova, but we all know how she gets defeated.
Oh yes, oh
Yeah,
yes,
we're about to get to that.
oh yes, but to be
So
fair,
why
okay,
does she need Bastion?
With the spray can, right?
No.
okay.
You'll
To
see.
answer your question, Pix, I don't know.
To be fair, in regards to how she's defeated, that is actually the specific way she is supposed to be defeated. Like, okay, to give the movie credit, the way that Fantasia works is, well, essentially like that of a story. It has to be done by the story's rules and all that, loose as they may be. Also, dude, don't read and drive.
Yeah, eyes on the road.
Also, I just realized that the childlike empress is trying to turn Bastion into Hollow Bastion.
Uh,
Well, yes, that is, and yes, Joba, that is true. Fantasia works like a story because it's in a storybook, and for us to obey the story's rules. The problem is, like I said, the story in Fantasia right now has not established any of the rules involving the wishes. So
No. Well, okay, they did establish that Zaida is pretty powerful, so trying to directly wish against her is a little tough. You just have to know
Well-
specifically which wish to make.
It
Did,
kind of
did, they,
feels
did, they,
as
did they verbally say that though?
Oops.
I don't,
It
I don't
kind of
remember.
feels as bullshit as the what's it called, Shenron saying, "I cannot defeat this person because he's too powerful
say-
for me."
You say she's too powerful. Well, as the movie verbally said,
Oh,
you
God.
cannot use
Whoa.
wishes against her. As
What
the movie
the
actually
fuck?
verbally said that, because I don't think it did.
Admittedly,
What's
it
wrong with your
hasn't, but
eyes?
like with the wishes thing that Pix pointed out, it is something to infer. Oh, goody, amount.
Oh, I think we're gonna mention something about the speed. Also, what's with your outfit?
Also, you
Remember-
guys totally like you guys have played Kingdom Hearts. Like you understood my joke, right?
Yes.
Sure. Like, it's because when you're creating a fantasy world, you have to be very clear about the rules and conveying it to the audience. Like, because it can lead to problems if you don't do that.
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that in that regard. Like, look, I mean, there may be an idea at helm here, but the execution is not
Yeah,
the best.
See, the
And
problem.
now-
See,
Oh.
to say something I can to what we usually say, Jova. Like, I'm starting to feel when you tell me that, Jova, I feel like you should deserve a credit for being a co-writer in this.
That's
And
fair.
yeah, by the way, next level of the whole gaslighting thing, now that the entire library is gone, and if I recall correctly, they're basically saying that he has been for sale for a long time.
It's interesting because the dad initially didn't believe his son about this stuff, but now he's starting to see that maybe
Also-
it was real.
What city is this supposed to be? Let me check.
Sure.
Guys, I just realized the librarian. He is a wizard because like he's doing Howl's Moving Castle right now.
Kinda.
He's teleporting the library to a different part of the world.
He's
Maybe
teleported
it's
into
door.
NeverEnding Story 3, where he will be played by
God.
Freddie Jones.
Maybe it's Chicago. That will explain the pizza.
I like her little toys.
I don't even. Okay, I guess the one on the left is supposed to actually have a more, maybe racial kind of thing.
Also, That moment can be very easily taken out of context.
Yeah, again, the way of the emptiness trying to corrupt Bastion with her words can be easily taken out of context.
Not just that, but look at this scenery where we're in right now. Like this can be so easily taken out of context to,
Pedro, I told you to get the copy of the movie NeverEnding Story 2, not the Book of Henry again.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
You don't need to get it.
Oh,
Pixar,
Pix.
trust me.
It's that. Okay, let me put it like this, Pix. For whatever problems
No,
this movie
you don't have
has,
to explain it.
Don't worry.
She looks like she's dressed to go to the Emerald City, though.
Kinda.
I wish I was
She
watching
looks-
that movie.
She looks like she's made of the Emerald City.
Just let him say, come on.
God, you are an idiot.
See, well, I get the idea. This scenario is a bit more plausible, the villain is preying on Bastion and he has to, falling toward the pressure of the situation. That I can actually understand,
Why doesn't he just take the belt off?
well, okay.
Everything.
He did say that he couldn't see himself, so he can't coordinate that stuff. Essentially,
You can feel it! That is bullcrap!
I was about to say that as well. You can easily feel the
Okay,
belt. It's not
okay.
that difficult.
Okay.
Wasn't that an actual plot point in the original book version of, of Snow White? The fact that the second attempt from the Queen is a belt so tight that asphyxiates her?
okay.
No. Was it? I don't think so.
Yes,
Well,
yes,
I'll
yes, in
check,
the
I'll check,
original
I'll check.
one. But yeah,
Oh,
no.
Pedro, we have seen the superior Good Times Jetlag version.
No, but I
You
don't
should
think
know.
that adaptation had that. But I'll check. Go on.
No. He's talking about the original tale.
I was just joking.
But yeah, no. I mean, again, to play devil's advocate, technically, we never heard whether or not Bastion can feel himself there.
Also, so many doves. Did John Woo started to take over the directing?
Now,
That
okay.
is true.
I will also say that I can buy her manipulating him at this point, seeing as how his lack of memories has made him a lot more gullible in this way, shape, or form. So I'm actually fine with that aspect. Uh-oh.
Well, it is true, Jova. How about this, Jova? Yes, it is true that we don't know if Bastion can feel himself, but we also don't know that we don't know either way. That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
But you know...
movie-
oh, sorry.
Again, this movie is intentionally. It seems like at least it's being intentionally keeping its rules and machinations intentionally vague for the sake of the story not just ending in 5 minutes.
You know what would have been a great story structure for Bastion?
Hmm?
He starts out super creative and making wishes, not realizing he's using up his memories and mental power and creativity. But as the story goes on, his wishes become simpler and a bit less effective because he's losing those creative processes to make those wishes.
Adaptation. He started more, with more detailedly, but to represent the memories fading, subsequently the art style degenerates. I think the Amazing Gumball had an episode centered around this or something.
You get what I'm saying, though?
Yeah. That's what I was speculating.
It's not a bad idea.
Also, again, I feel so sorry for Bastion's father in this story because he goes around trying to find his poor son, and he only has this book as reference, and the world around him keeps gaslighting him.
He probably wonders if he's going crazy. He wonders if he ever had a wife and son to begin with.
I mean, he has photos to prove it.
Yes, you are.
Honestly, okay, I get his reaction. But honestly, if my reaction would have been, yeah, he's going mad for his son's to the prison. Well, of course I fucking am.
All right, Teo, but here it is, Teo. It's not a belt; it's a laced bodice.
Okay.
Granted, some
She put a bodice on him?
Snow White picks.
We were talking. I was using
Oh,
comparisons
gotcha.
the way before, so that's what I was asking.
I thought you were talking about the belt that she put on him.
Well, as a parallel, but yeah, I was
Yeah.
mistaken.
A parallel to that.
You might have seen a version where the witch just outright tries to strangle her by the neck with a belt, so...
You know,
Yeah.
Also, this carriage is a bit impractical because it virtually has no roof. So what it's raining? What's happening?
He stole the memory.
Mm-hmm. Again, that's supposedly part of his arc. It's again, the thing about it is that it's a bit vague. It's obvious enough to give you the idea where it's going, but it doesn't feel like you have a clear idea what his motivations are.
Is it just universal that people like subconsciously regard memories as like crystal orbs, like in Inside Out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very common type of imagery. Yes.
Well, not in well, to an extent, not in Genshin Impact. There's like a little medal.
What if Zaida looked like his mother? That would be so weird.
In Dissidio Peronia, memories are in the form of sparkling bits of light, apparently.
Usually artists express memories in a physical manner in the form of orbs, because that way, they're using a crystal ball type of logic where you can have the memories be reflected in said orb and use it for whatever story purpose.
And there you go. This memory is ultimately what tips Nimble. See, this is actually better. You get an understanding of where it's coming from.
Yeah.
To be fair, if I actually saw a backstory tragic that, yeah, I would probably do the same. Okay, I don't understand this, because I thought it was a prerogative of Nimble, but now I remember. Why does no one addresses the Orin with an article?
What do you mean with an article?
As in the Orin.
Yeah.
As in, it's still, a name tied to an object, a
Well,
proper...
because it's not the Orin. Orin is its name.
Well, I get that, Pixie, but the thing is, like Theo said, they kind of refer to Orin as if it's a person.
Yeah. I always picked up.
And
I was
also
picked up on
recycled
that.
footage. I can tell you that in the first movie they did address it with an article.
Yeah, they did. So, what exactly?
I always picked up on that. Like, I remember calling it the Orin, and people would correct me and say it's Orin.
It's just that this movie decides to do it for reasons that escape me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I forgot it because, for obvious reason, I don't watch that one often, but I forgot if the third movie actually does that or not. So yeah, at the very least, they got still the idea of Falcor, dispensing words of wisdom, trying to defuse the situation. Even though he had those satanic red eyes before. Okay, that's
He took the belt off.
Okay, to be fair, he apparently now knows that. He didn't know it prior.
He didn't know that after he put the belt on, he could take it off again? That would have been the first thing I tried, because it's like, this is what made me invisible. I don't want to be invisible anymore, so I'll do the opposite.
That was a joke with the chastity belt in the Love Guru. Oh.
I wish for this movie to be good.
Sorry, Pedro, we can
No,
wish is not
no,
You're not allowed to have the wishes, sorry.
I'm sorry, Mr. Duarte. Your 24-hour warranty for wishes has expired. However, if you purchase this microtransaction of $9.99, you can continue.
Oh god, there's actually a Red Dwarf episode that shows the dangers of it. Something like that applied to like literally everything.
Also, yes, because again of the manipulation that MPIS has been doing to Bastion, now him and Atreyu are in open conflict.
The big issue with this conflict is that the what's her name? The villain?
emptiness.
You can just address her.
That's it. The emptiness. The emptiness arguments. The emphasis arguments to convince Bastion to turn to the dark side weren't particularly convincing, and like I said, Bastion kind of comes across as an idiot for offering little resistance to her.
Someone has mentioned that it's probably because he's losing more and more memory, so he's becoming easier prey. But still, I get the idea of this, much like with all of elements of this movie, this also turning feels a bit too contrived for what he wants to do.
Also, didn't he read the whole book in the first adventure where Atreyu is like a super good person.
Well, again, Pixie. To be fair, he has actually.
God.
He has actually been losing his memories of stuff like that. Hindsight is manipulation of him. I will say this though. While I get why it happens, and there is technically a plot reason for it, Valkyrie even does mention that he's losing more of himself. The transition is not handled the best throughout. Essentially, like, okay. There's an arc to it, yes, but I have to agree with the others that this would have been better if they had maybe paced it out better. But yeah, oops, sorry, Bastion.
I'll put it this way. It feels like, based on what you're telling me, it feels a lot to me like the people who made this movie read the book, yes, but they're nowhere near as good at this as the people who made the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder if maybe the sequel could have been done better if, well, for the first thing, it was planned from the get-go, essentially, or if it had been made in closer proximity to the first film.
God, the score is trying so much.
Remember, the first movie was made in Germany. If I remember correctly, too, this was actually made in Hollywood?
I don't remember. Let me check just to be sure.
I mean, this kid was a Hollywood actor who appeared in stuff at the time, so I'm assuming so.
Well, it was done with an English cast, yes, but it did premiere in Germany, admittedly. October 20th,
so
2019.
What were the production companies?
Cinevox Film Production, so yes, Germany, and distributed by Warner Bros. And yes, it mentions here with countries of production, both West Germany and United States.
Okay, then. Yeah, there's a German producer here, but from what I'm seeing here, the director and writers were American, from what I'm seeing here.
Bird up.
Bam, bam, bam.
At least Arthur did not die this time around.
Well, that ain't good.
Wow.
Man, that is some seriously polluted water in those waterfalls. Look at that.
Yeah, it's really brown.
Yeah, like, seriously, what happened to the water in Fantasia?
At least it's not acid.
Reusing shots, great. Kudos for small favors, I guess.
Did you forget that they also reused the same area in the opening part with the green screen?
They've been doing it from the beginning.
We're on a budget here, Missy.
If Bastion dies, can you imagine what the dad would be saying in core? My son died because he was trapped in a book and I read the book.
But sir,
this is going to be
your
very
son
difficult
never
to
existed.
This is going to be very difficult.
Sorry.
This is going to be very difficult to explain to the police. Yeah, see, officer, my son was warped inside of a world of a fantasy book, and I can't seem to get him out of there, and he's in mortal danger over there.
All right, listen to this.
No.
What? Like, so I'm sorry, what?
Darkness is just the absence of light.
Like, this comes to the fuck out of nowhere. It's like, sure, if those are the rules of this universe, sure, but, like, the Bastion's power is explained like it's a known fact.
Darkness doesn't travel. Darkness is just there. Light is what travels.
I'm surprised Kingdom Hearts didn't actually made a rule of that. I know that they use corridors of darkness to teleport.
Yeah,
but,
darkness is literally the absence of light.
That's what I said.
Mm-hmm.
But also, couldn't the father just read back to the beginning of the story and get him back?
I get the idea that's not how it
that's
works.
Not how it
especially
works.
Because,
I take it burning the book wouldn't help.
I guess
either.
it's also because it might be represented by the fact that Bastion is the Orin, while in the real world the book doesn't have it, and such the power is not. Is more, just swelled up by how the story progresses.
I take it burning the book wouldn't be a good idea either.
No, okay. Believe it or not, the third movie would explain actually what the consequences are for inflicting physical damage to the book. So your wish will be granted.
I guess.
Dwebs
why
is
did
the
they take till the
reason
third movie
NeverEnding
to get
Story
to that
3
bit?
exists.
I wish for NeverEnding Story 3 to not
What year
exist.
did it come out?
Later.
1994.
So I was born.
4 years
I
after
was
this.
born around that point. Well, about a year earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, remember that's a thing. Yeah, okay, 87, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I was 7. I was 7 when I watched NeverEnding Story 3 in theaters. Don't worry, I'm
Wow.
still. Don't worry, Pixie. I'm still in therapy because of it. Don't worry. I'm still working on that.
I gotta wonder, how was your theater experience during that?
I remember not.
thing.
I don't remember a lot of people being in the theater. I don't remember that, to be honest. But again, you have to
Hey, he
understand
said the
that.
title again.
You have to understand that I was 7 at the time. I remember seeing the first sequence where he goes into the book. I do remember that vividly, but aside from that, everything is kind of a blur.
I didn't hear anything
You are the
that.
true never-ending story.
And then later when I got older and I saw the movie, oh my god, I paid money to watch this in theaters.
Wait,
I didn't hear
wait,
anything
hold
that
on.
Nimbley said.
Wait, hold
That's
on.
it, Bastion. You are the never-ending story, TM.
You are the never-ending story 2 TM.
I didn't hear
Basically,
anything that Nimbley said.
hold on, I was
Yeah.
about
Yes,
to answer
Jova?
you in that regard, Pix. Basically, what Nimbley has been saying is like, well, he was originally with Zaida, but when he saw one of Bastion's memories, he was reminded of what truly values or matters in Fantasia, and that has helped him see the error of his ways.
Oh, I remember that now.
I was gonna say, Joe, but did you just you just call Pixie Pixum? Was that wait, wow, Pam really did leave something on
No,
you.
please, we're not
No.
doing
Did you call me Pixels? I didn't hear that.
No, I did not call you Pixum. Dwibs is referencing the fact that in the Peter Pan 2015 film, that in that movie, pixie dust is literally something that people snort.
Okay.
I'd say it makes sense in context, but that doesn't make it any
Also-
less crazy.
If you know me enough, oh Jesus, you'll know me that I'm kind of usually interested in characters like we have the character of Nimbley here, like
Kate Sif.
Kate Sif in Final 7. But the way the parts from Bastion with that like one big way of
He's
saying
sweatier in every shot. Every shot that comes up, the dad is sweatier and sweatier.
To be fair,
right.
as far as he knows, his son could die, so a little
Oh, yeah.
perspiration
I
to
just
show
think
the
it's
stress.
really funny how it's just not even addressed. Like, it's not like a close-up to show, like, the beads of sweat. It's just, like, casually, he's just even sweatier than the scene before.
So yeah, similar to how the nothing had swallowed up almost the entirety of Fantasia in the first movie, in here the emptiness is managed thanks to the speed of darkness, quote unquote, managed to ravage Silver City.
Yeah, that's the other thing about this movie. The stakes are technically lower than
It
the
is
first
inevitable
movies.
when you have a threat like the nothing in the first movie, in this case, the first half of the book. So I get it, It's just a matter of
This movie is
execution,
so
honestly.
boring sometimes.
Yeah.
I will say that, yeah, it makes sense that the stakes are somewhat lower since Zaida is more about controlling and reshaping the world to her fit, whereas the Nothing just wanted to absolutely destroy everything.
And not just that, it operated on a two-world basis. It operated on the idea that in the real world, people would, lose their imagination, their desire of creativity, and as a result, Fantasia will crumble, so the Nothing gets everything that they so desire.
I mean, I don't know how it is in the books, obviously, but in these two movies, the first two specifically, it becomes really because in the first movie, Bastion was not really an interesting character because it didn't need to. Like, it was more about the characters in the book and how he interacts with them at the end, especially with the Empress, right?
And Bastion was just the audience surrogate.
Exactly. The Bastion's primary role in that movie was
Yeah,
to be the
I'm-
audience.
The
I'm
movie
sorry.
literally spells it out for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, the movie
I'm sorry.
really
I'm
spells
sorry.
that
I
out.
killed. I'm sorry. I killed you. Can you forgive me?
Right. by putting him in the spotlight for this movie, now his blandness is right here on the spotlight is on his blandness, and we can all see it bare naked right here.
All right. By the way,
Yeah, sure,
regarding
but the-
hold on, regarding the
God.
memory thing here, yeah, he's apparently down to his last memory. Essentially, his memory. He just used his memory of his mother, and now he only has a memory of his father left.
He looks a lot like him.
Yes, Bastion is about to make his final wish.
Here you go. Let's see how he defeats the evil witch.
He looks a lot like him, though.
So Pedro, I thought you were asking for a heart attack, right?
That's not. Okay, I'll say that
Well,
when it
you're
actually
gonna get
happens.
a heart attack.
Is this a reference to the earlier Chucky movie that you're talking about with Pedro? I don't know.
Just
No,
watch.
No. Just watch.
What?
Oh.
Okay.
And she's instantaneously. It's like the Grinch.
I was just thinking that!
You
And
could
she
have
re-
solved all our problems if you had done this from the start.
What are
And
these
she's-
feelings?
Yeah.
By the way, as I mentioned to
Leaking.
the others when he commented on the movie, by the way, this is kind of sorta how the villain gets defeated in the end of the last of the Aragon books.
Shiroy, I'm leaking.
Oh god.
I've been foiled by the power of love.
Yeah, and apparently
She really
it
was.
works.
So there's your heart attack, Pedro. Okay, apparently giving the emptiness a heart did have her reflect on her bad actions so much that it caused her to become overcome by emotions
Also,
and
what happened to
explode.
Tri-Face, the
I
scientist,
appreciate.
That is
That
a
is
good
true, Joe.
question.
That is true, Joe Venteo. But again, why didn't he just do this from the beginning?
I guess he didn't know that that was
Oh,
the
he
way to beat her
trusted-
before.
He also trusted Zaida. He had no reason to beat her before.
That
This
is
is one of
true.
those movies. This is one of those movies where, as an audience member, you always feel like you're trying to make up for the movie's holes.
Well, it feels like, to me, it's kind of like, you know what's happening far earlier than the main character does, so it's frustrating watching him try to figure it out while you already know.
Yeah, that too.
Well, there you go. The day has been saved. Peace is restored, and I guess everyone came back from wherever they were.
Nothing against you, lady. I'm sure you're a fine actress, but I feel like you were miscast in this role as the Empress.
Yeah. Also, Zaida's really pretty, but they really needed to give her an eyebrow pencil or something.
And she's still
Again,
the-
she's
the-
a representative of one particular species of Fantasia. They're just quirky like that, I guess.
It must be very inconvenient. How does she even get around?
If
this
that was
place?
our guess, it might be a representation of
Uh,
that green spirit.
My
Oh.
gondola?
Also, I love that bit. Aron, it's only a reflection of what's inside of you. Yeah,
Bullshit.
the third movie's going to absolutely contradict
Not just
that.
that. I argue even the first one.
Well, okay, to be fair, we hadn't really established the Aron in the first
Yes,
one.
by the way, that the fear of heights and the water, that has to be incorporated because that's the only way home for Bastion. He has to overcome his fear of
Are you?
height
Eh.
diving.
Hey, Empress, are you sure Fantasia's been saved? Because look at that water. It looks like Fantasia has some severe water pollution problem.
Oh god, you look greasy.
We should probably get around that, maybe. Seriously, look at now it's green. What the fuck is wrong with the water in this movie? Like,
There's something
Looks
in the
brown,
water.
not green.
It's like the
the
second,
water's not sludge from Marco's Magic Football. I just like.
It's like the second episode of the Agnes Care. Scrub till the water is brown.
NeverEnding Story 4, The Fight Against Pollution.
Pedro, this is not Captain Planet.
Also, since you made a "Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared" reference, Bastion goes up to Zaida and goes, "Wow, look, nothing."
All right, Bastion, you're totally not
Go
deaf.
to the blue screen. Go to the
Yeah,
blue
I was gonna say that effect wasn't
Whee!
great.
Oh wait,
And
crap! We
Bastion
actually could have
died.
descended from the tunnel. That actually is his death.
Wait a minute, did they use a double?
Probably.
Probably.
I
The
mean,
main-
granted, I don't know. For all they know, they just had the kid up in a harness or something. Also,
Being a parent really is stressful, huh?
also, Pigs.
Basically, Pixie. I know this actor. I know him from both this and Sidekicks, which was a Chuck Norris movie.
Are you talking about the dad, or are you talking about Bastion?
The actor playing Bastion.
Again, I know him instead from the It miniseries. It's really good.
Also, Pix, you're a fellow Peter Pan 2003 fan. Excellent.
Heck yeah! I love that one. That's like my favorite one.
Same. It's
I-
probably the best live-action adaptation of Peter Pan.
Me and my sister had like crazy crushes on Jeremy
fine.
Sumter for that
Wait,
movie.
In terms of Peter Pan, I'm still waiting for the Fox TV series to actually get fucking re-released.
Also, can I ask a question? Bastion, transitioning from the Fantasia to the real world happened in the water, which, by the way, Final Fantasy X will have something like that for its ending. So I'm curious, in what point did you emerge, Bastion? In the city fountain?
Actually in the sewer.
Oh God!
I was gonna
Considering-
guess it was the pool that he dove into.
You see, in the sewer,
Yeah,
just
same.
like the
And he just, like-
Mario Brothers.
And he just like walked back from school because
Yeah, I thought he was going to resurface in the swimming pool or
Maybe there's a
something.
deleted scene. I don't
That's
know.
what I would have. That's what I would have directed it as.
But
Also, considering all the references to this franchise throughout the movie, I'm surprised you didn't say that he dove right into a Kingdom Hearts intro.
I know, right?
It's my
It's,
sanctuary.
Well, at least we get to hear the song again, so there's that.
Also,
Exactly.
also one of the interesting things about we were talking about like universal symbology, like the memories being universally regarded as like crystals or crystal orbs. Is water is linked to the subconscious.
Yeah, there you go.
I love this remix.
So yeah, we get a small, unfortunately that's not the entire song, a small remix of the American NeverEnding Story theme that was composed for the first movie.
I'm just gonna say this movie was pretty, but it was dumb.
But anyway, we might as well because there's no post-credit scene. So final thoughts, Libs.
It's boring.
Yeah.
Do you have memories of the first one, so you can compare it to that?
No.
You wish too much, at
He
least.
lost his memories of the first one because he wished this movie
Yeah.
was so good.
Well, that's a thing, Pixie. I don't remember thinking too much of the first movie. To be honest.
That's because you lost your memory about it.
Let's just go on this.
But this movie, dude, this movie's just really dumb. Like, like the movie could have been over in like 10 minutes, but because the characters are dumb, it has to keep going to feature length. Not to mention that whole stupid side plot with it's not really a side plot, is it? It's that whole stupid thing with him turning against his new mate that he resulted in killing him. And I have to say, that kid is really forgiving of the boy who practically committed manslaughter on him after reviving him. If that happened to me, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck? You killed me because you're a petty git.
I guess Atreyu was a bit more understanding because once again, as also Falcor told to him, Bastion was too influenced by the memories falling onto him and the manipulation, from the emptiness. So it was more a case of trying to be understanding.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's just being a dick.
Okay, I'll give you that in NeverEnding Story 3. Not so much with this one.
The guy singing right now is like dollar store Elton John.
Yeah, like you said, the NeverEnding Story remix happens for a very brief time, and then we cut to different songs, which are still fine, but it's kind of like being cock blocked.
Okay, I know the movie wasn't the most didn't have the highest budget in the world, but the green screen in this movie is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's pretty obvious he's just standing in front of a screen when there's supposed to be a big waterfall in the background.
It's
The
even worse in the
chroma key-
80s somehow.
The chroma keying in this movie is somehow worse than, say, like, I think it's almost on par with Puma Man.
Yeah, I got reminded a bit of that.
Yeah, and Superman 4, I guess.
Yeah, to an extent.
The rest of the effects are fine, but nothing really that spectacular. And also, how ironic, a series called The NeverEnding Story only had 3 movies.
The miniseries, as Jova mentioned. What about the music, Dibs?
Oh,
Fine.
right, there's also an animated series too, apparently.
Well, it kind of comes off to me as just discount John Williams.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny because I was thinking that the song of like the singer who's singing right now sounds like a discount Elton John.
Yeah. NeverEnding Story 2 is a discount movie. You can get it for like it didn't cost much to make, and it didn't cost me much to rent.
It costs a few pounds and a couple of memories.
My memories are already gone long.
Yeah,
before
it's
I
a
bought
kind of a custom with waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess on the plus side, if I want to rewatch a movie and it's been so long that I've forgotten about it, it'll feel like I'm watching it for the first
usual
time
joke.
again.
The usual joke that I like to make, Pixie, is that the advantage of being friends with Brits is that you get to tell them the exact same joke over and over, and they'll always laugh like it's the first time I've told them. So,
Which one?
Both of
Yes.
them, Dwebs and Shiroi.
No, which joke?
Yes.
Any joke.
Exactly.
One.
Oh.
Any joke. I get to tell them the exact same joke over and over, the exact same jokes over and over, and they always laugh like it's the first time because they don't remember them ever. So,
Nope.
Exactly. So yeah, that's me done. NeverEnding Story 2, the beginning of boredom.
Alright, Shiri.
All right. While on the subject, I'll just say that I don't really remember the first movie either. So, great. Although it's been a while since we actually watched it.
A couple of years, yes.
Yeah.
A while.
So yeah, there's no way I'd remember that.
I remember it.
I
You
remember
don't
it.
have to.
But you're not a
My
British,
memory
but-
isn't as good.
Yeah, but it's remember, Pixie, this is a British thing. You have to understand. The British have problems with memory, basically.
But yeah, I mean, the music was whimsical, like appropriately whimsical. The movie looked good. Like, the story is just kind of meh. I don't think it was particularly awful. I think it was just silly. I didn't expect much going into this for this one, so I'm not disappointed. So there we go. It was okay, I guess. It looked and sounded good. That's what I'll give it. And that's it.
All right.
Pedro.
That's fair.
This movie's boring. Mostly because the stakes are lower, and yes, I understand why they're lower, but there's the fact that they are lower. There's also the fact that the biggest problem is, of course, the whole wishing plot element. That entire I would have just come up with something different, some kind of, because this idea of giving the main character unlimited wishes and power just completely like, okay, so basically what you're telling, and yeah, the movie even proves my point at the end by having him wish for her to have a heart, which is something that he could have done ages ago.
If he was aware.
Like the moment they learn of the moment he learns of her and he learns about how the wish thing works, he could have, okay, fine, in that case I'll wish for what's her name again?
Yeah.
Zaida.
Zahida to have a heart, and there you go. He didn't even need to go near her for the shit to work. It's just
He wanted to
that's the-
see her
Okay.
face when she had a
Also,
heart.
I get the idea of what they were going for is to also for Bastion to understand better himself as a person, you know, to pull a true act of selflessness, you know, in his case a desperate move, I suppose. The problem is just the execution.
And I can also
yeah,
buy
the
that he would not have known that the way to beat her was to give her a heart until he actually got to know her on that level, which that was something he got the idea of by interactions
Fine.
with her.
What were you gonna say, Pedro?
Fine, just wish for her to drop dead. Like this, this is a huge, never-ending rabbit hole that will never be closed.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing. The
Because-
movie starts out by suggesting he needs to give the force against a name, which I guess he does in naming it the emptiness, essentially, later on.
Wow, what a name.
Well, to be
Well,
fair,
so-
named the childlike Empress Moonchild. Kid's a bit
It's like
weird with the
Bastion-
names.
Yeah, Bastion is not particularly great at names, but the point is, yeah, like the characters also are not particularly well fleshed out compared to the first movie at all. The returning characters are not particularly well used. The world building is kind of bleh, and there's just no interesting themes going on around here. It's just trying to defeat the evil witch before she fucks everything. That's all this movie is. There's no interesting character development or arcs going on here. It's a movie that feels like it's just kind of going through the motions. And eventually, like I said, eventually they realize that their plot logically would end in 10 minutes, like Dwip said, but yeah, they keep extending it because, yeah, Jova kept coming up with reasons for why these things are the case.
Some
but
of which
again,
were said in the movie, but yeah, others, I'll admit, that was me kind of connecting the dots in ways that the movie did not establish. So yeah, there are some points where I probably deserve a writing credit.
And that's that's a problem. Like when the audience feels like they're coming up with way too many inferences to the point where they deserve to get a credit for it, that's when becomes a problem, because you're the writer, you're supposed to tell me how things led to other things. The music is whatever. Then the effects range from good to not particularly good. The blue screen in particular can get pretty iffy. Like a lot of times it looks like you're seeing a mid 2000s YouTuber green screen effect. So yeah, not great. No, especially when it's such a huge step down from the first movie, because it's not interesting. It's not particularly entertaining. It's boring at times, like Pixie said. It's just not good. It doesn't work. I mean, it's not terrible. It's not like the people who made this weren't trying. I just don't think they were particularly good at this. It's again, the wish is that he does ask for our stupid, like the spray can thing, which a lot of people like to make fun of, and for good reason, because it's dumb. It's it's not great. Like no wonder I basically remembered nothing from watching this as a kid, because there's nothing here.
So the
Wish for
empty.
something better and forgot these movies are as
Like,
well.
yeah.
So I guess the
It's-
emptiness plan worked on Pedro.
I guess it did, yes. It's it's not to mention not to mention like Atreyu. Atreyu doesn't even do much. Remember, he was the main character of the first movie, and he doesn't really do much of anything in this movie. I get that Bastion is now the new designated main character, but like I said, he's bland. Like he was meant to be an audience surrogate. I don't surrogate. I'm assuming he's overall more fleshed out in the book, because
The book in general does everything that you are afraid of. The idea of Bastion having unlimited power and wishes, and Atreyu may not be in the focus. But I can tell you that because of the execution is much better, it still manages to be a very compelling story about, as a cautionary tale about the abuse of power.
Sure, that's the only way a plot element like this can work. And while the movie at some times does kinda touch upon that, it only does it in a superficial way, not at all in a very interesting path. Like most of the time, the movie's not even focusing on that; it's just focusing on other things, or just having things happen because. So it's not. Also, the henchmen are not particularly competent, which basically deflates even more tension from the plot.
One just disappears off screen.
Yeah.
What happened to Tri-Face? Seriously.
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
honestly kind of drawing a blank on Tri-Face. Like,
The basic point is this: it's not good, even by its own merits. The story just doesn't work. It's flawed from a basic concept level. The very idea of giving this character unlimited power and not designing or writing your story around that problem, again, it's like it's the final it's the final Twilight movie all over again, where in order to resolve everything, you just have the character with unlimited powers just solve everything, and that's it. It's
I give it
whatever,
credit, it doesn't get to the point of the Twilight finale of literally just erasing all tension of that, or just giving, like,
Sure.
you
Yeah,
know...
pretending that it
this or
never
that.
happened.
Sure. It's just that it's the same basic concept, though. Like when you have a character in your story that can predict the future with 100% accuracy, okay, so I have no reason to fear for this character, because this character can very easily see everything coming, and they can do everything to avoid it. So there's no tension in this story.
Usually
I have no
good
reason to
enough
fear
writing-
for this person.
Usually, good enough writing will use that to talk about the inevitability of the future. The consequences. Of
Like the
inevitability.
like the Bardock TV special in Dragon Ball Z. That's a good example of how you can give
the
a main.
Cassandra story. Yes.
Sure, that works too. I was trying to give a more popular example.
Anything else?
No, not particularly. It's not good. It's better than Free, but being better than Free is not at all a feat worthy of applause. So,
All right, Peaks, you're up.
Kind of hard to follow all that, but so I felt like I was really enchanted by the visuals. I love the sparkles. I love the colors. I love the sets. Nimbly was pretty charming. Bastion was he was a fine actor, but it always felt like he was just making reaction faces most of the time.
yeah, I know, right?
There's a lot of spaces where characters are just talking or looking at each other or doing nothing. I feel like the beginning part of the movie, it sets you up for a lot more grand of an adventure than you actually get in the end. And I feel like, as we mentioned before, the memory thing could have been done a whole lot better. I think that there's an effective way you can make the unlimited wishes thing and the memory destruction thing and make it like really interesting by having it so his creativity, like his childlike power that's giving him the ability to use Auron effectively, gets diminished over time as he loses his memory, and then his wishes become less and less helpful or creative because he's losing that, and then it makes the plot like harder to resolve. It makes the tensions ramp up, is what I feel. It felt like they kind of just jammed characters from the first movie in as a formality. They're like, hey, remember these guys existed?
Hey guys, I still exist.
Yeah, Rockbiter. And then he just doesn't even show up at the end. Childlike Empress literally shows up at the very beginning as a drawing, and then as like an intercom message, and then in a gondola at the very end to be like, Dorothy, you could always return home. All you have to do is click your heels and say there's no place like home.
Admittedly, that is kind of her role in the book. Like, the childlike Empress, while she does have a presence, is kind of that character that mainly shows up at, like, the end of the arc, from what I can recall. Now, she did have more of a recurring presence in the miniseries. I don't recall the animated series, but take that for what you will.
Yeah. The fact that the audience is well aware of Zaida's plan from the very beginning is super bad story structure. I think they could have revealed it more over time and sort of put us in Bastion's shoes. The longer we have to contemplate Zaida's plan, the longer we're just waiting for Bastion to understand it himself, and the stupider he looks as a result.
Damn, Pixie, you would hate the Genesis game Last Battle. Get this, it's a game that literally starts by spoiling the entire plot in a big wall of text, and then the title screen shows up. I'm not kidding, they literally spoil the entire plot before the title screen even pops up.
Incredible.
I don't know if you saw it, but the Freddy versus Jason movie also does exactly that.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, not
Pix.
as text. It's literally Freddy Krueger talking to the audience for that.
When I was little, the only things I really remembered about this movie was Nimbly, Zaida, Bastion, Treyu, Valcor, Rockbiter, the pretty scenery, and the sparkly Orin, and that is all I remembered. Oh, and the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember the memory machine, I guess. That's true.
You remembered the memory machine.
Yeah. Because like that was the first thing I mentioned. But nothing else felt important or meaningful to me. Like, I remember the part where Bastion wished for Zaida to have a heart. And it's like, I don't know, I feel like that's a really stupid resolution. Like, it seems powerful on the surface, but it's very,
Shallow.
yeah, hollow.
Just like Zahira before her heart got in. Hey.
It's almost like Zaida herself wrote the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But,
I would like to remind you, this is the director of Susan Roxanne, so I can assure you that kind of deep metatextual commentary is probably not wanted.
also, Falcor didn't really seem like a character this time. He felt just sort of like a story device, like sort of to get characters from one place to another. And that's just like, okay, cool.
He's basically Appa.
Yeah, but like without any of the charm.
Yeah.
It was really boring, and I hated the way that Bastion acted at the beginning of this story. And how his dad was basically just like, oh, you... Like, there was no real tension or conflict there, so there was no point for the scene. Other than just to show that Bastion is, like, a little quirky. But it's like, they don't even show that later on in the movie. Like, that never his clumsiness is never brought up as a plot point again. He doesn't fumble anything else. Like, literally, it's just like he makes dumb wishes. And that's just not really interesting. Like, I don't need to see this story.
It doesn't add anything to the world that was established in the first movie. There's not really like you could this literally doesn't really manage to justify its own existence. Not really.
Yeah, I'm gonna counterject against that. Like, it doesn't add much, but it does add stuff of substance, like extra rules to the narrative, the presence of the emptiness in that regard, and also, sort of in the real world, establishing more stuff about how the librarian works, how the book can work for not just Bastion, but other people, and helping him establish his bond with his dad better. I'm not gonna say it's done well.
That literally could be a footnote in the original re-release DVD or Blu-ray. Like, you don't need to make an entire movie to demonstrate those new rules.
Agreed, especially because some of them were at the very least implied in the first movie.
Also, I noticed that there was a lot of stuff that they just like set up in the beginning and then they just never pay off, like the librarian. He never shows up again. Ever. It's almost like they added a bunch of elements from the first movie mid-production, realizing, oh, people aren't going to like this one as much if we don't include stuff from the first movie. You know?
I don't really agree, but I do see your point.
I think it's also a case of, the people who did the screenplay or, the writing for this maybe either did not have too much experience, with the first material or only watched superficially the first movie. So they believe, oh, we kind of need these elements or plot points particularly to connect them with the first movie, but we don't know exactly how to make them working organically or to what to do with them. The entire point of a librarian is to fuck around with Bastion's father, but the problem is that because of this, he has little to no screen time, and his motivations are confusing, if not counterproductive, to say the least. So yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that any of the characters, besides like maybe Nimbly, were even that interesting. I remember having mixed feelings on Nimbly. I remember thinking of him being like, he's Zaida's flying monkey, like he's a minion to her. But then like he has a change of heart, and that's what I remembered about him. Like, I remember the scene where he's crying about Bastion losing his mom as he's like looking at the memory. I would have had him smash the memory machine, and then Bastion and Zaida would both have to come up with different means. Bastion had lost most of his memories by that point, but Zaida would then have to come up with different ways to use Bastion. And then the stakes would get ramped up. There's just a lot more that could have been done with this story that wasn't done. It felt really boring and safe. I don't really feel like good that I watched this movie. I just kind of feel like I wasted my time.
at the very least, you were not alone for it.
Yeah, and it was pretty. Like, I love the visuals, but I don't think that I would rather look at like pictures of NeverEnding Story 2 than watch the movie and have to experience just the boredom and the spaces of nothing in between. That's all I really have to say.
Java.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna be the odd one out in that I don't think this movie is an abomination that doesn't deserve to exist. But, that being said, this is not the pinnacle that a sequel to the NeverEnding Story should have been. Like we've mentioned, it has interesting, nay, actually very good ideas. Some that they execute relatively well, but most of them are just not executed good. I'm sorry. I do dig Bastion getting a better relationship with his father. I legit do like that. I do like the concept of Zaida, aka the emptiness. I feel like, you know, her theme does work as a counterpart sequel point to that of the nothing, wherein she doesn't want to completely destroy Fantasia, but she does want to reshape, remold it to her more concrete style of way. And I do like how her effects on Bastion do, in a way, simulate the loss of childhood innocence and creative imagination. That being said, though, these are just good points in the movie. The movie as a whole does not do the best job connecting them. Like, a lot of it does go into the story and pacing. And, like, yeah, I do agree, it does feel like a step down in stakes when kind of the final act comes down to them essentially going in circles because Zaida's just toying with Bastion. Which, okay, is a neat change, you know, whereas the nothing was something we had to constantly escape in the original film. Zaida is something
No, the
that we
nothing was nothing we had to escape.
Ha, funny. Zaida is something that the heroes actively pursue, essentially, and quote-unquote capture before she turns the tables on them. Interesting stuff in that regard. Again, though, I do feel like the problem does lie in the execution. I do like the effects, and I do like the music. The green screen is... it's something it's a product of its time, I feel. I will admit, though, that I have seen better green screen jobs, though, around from that era, too. Like, no, they're not the best. As for the casting... they could have done better, but I'm fine with what we got. Again, ideally, the sequel would have been made close enough to the original so that we could have a lot of these actors reprise their roles. Maybe say that some time has passed in between. Actually, come to think of it, did this movie actually state how much time has passed in between this and the original?
Not that we know.
Well, I'm assuming since Bastion is like a tween, probably like 5 years or so.
He looks definitely older than than in the first movie, So I get the idea it might be intentionally some point to say that some time has passed.
So
maybe like 3 to 5 years.
So I guess I'm fine with the cast for the most part and the looks. Though again, the bit with Kenny Morrison is some goddamn irony, but I digress. I will agree. I think my biggest issue is that, yes, in a way, this venture does kind of feel smaller than that of the original tale. I mean, okay, in a way, ironically, this is kind of how I feel when I compare, say, how Crash Bandicoot 1 feels to Crash Bandicoot 2. Don't get me wrong, Crash Bandicoot 2 improves on the gameplay, has more levels than One Nut, but what Crash Bandicoot 1 I'd argue had the best of in the original trilogy is the sense of scale. Like, an atmosphere, like, booming and all that. Like, you're constantly going on a venture across the islands, whereas in the later two games of the trilogy, you're more or less in a warp room, making things, somewhat smaller and more compact, essentially. Now, that is not necessarily a knock against the Crash games, but it is similar to how I feel about the sequel compared to the original NeverEnding Story movie, wherein the venture does not feel as expansive, and in a sense feels small. Now, to give this movie credit, it was sort of that way by design, by adapting off of the second half of the novel, which Yeah, had that. Though they could have arguably have expanded on it more. Again, from what I've seen, the miniseries is a relatively good combination of the concepts of the two movies, so maybe I'll have a relook at that. But as for this movie, in spite of all of its issues, I still like it. I am fine with the fact that it exists, and it's not something that I regret watching. Do I wish it was better? Yes. But all the same, I'm content with what I saw.
Okay.
Theo.
Alright, that leaves me. It's really too much of a step down from the first movie for me to ignore that. It's not the worst thing that has ever happened, when it comes to sequels, but I've seen also much better attempt. I think the best way to describe this is that this feels like an alpha prototype. This really feels to me like the script, needed a couple of rework before being actually pushed out of the oven to be, in full force. Because some of the ideas are actually there, but it feels like they're at the basic stage rather than being fully fleshed. The appearance and behavior of the henchman of the villain herself having a proper motivation, Bastion dealing with the kind of power that he has, and how he can potentially screw up what he has, there's also sorts of factors. He is completely with Atreyu. So all sorts of factors that can provide a very interesting story, and a decent enough sequel to the first movie. But I'm sorry to say, they just really do not work, as intended, at the very least. The whole Bastion is afraid of heights is just there for almost like a leap of faith at the end, which really has no much of a place, admittedly. Nimbly having his character arc is probably one of the more complex things about the movie, but it really required just a bit more to be that effective, and you can tell that the movie is almost there in doing it, but unfortunately it almost stumbles at the finishing line, for that. And Nimbly just up and disappears. He even mentions lampshades. That is to say also Tri-Face, which, like I said, was the thing that stood out to me when I watched the movie the first time, believe it or not, because iconic design and everything. But, it just disappears. I guess he dies like the other, minions at the very end once the emptiness is given a heart. And speaking of which, again, this new villain is just not as powerful as, what the Nothing and the Mork were in the first movie. And I get why, power sequel escalation, you run into this problem naturally, so you have to, deal with this kind of thing, so I can understand that. But it feels like we could have done a bit more to it. I don't know.
I get what you mean.
It really overall just feels incomplete. There's a gem of a story here, to be on par with the first movie, but we're just not there. And unfortunately, things are not about to get any better, Theo said, turning to the next page. In fact, the story was about to get worse for everyone, as in 4 years after this movie was made, a third one was done, not even released theatrically all over the world apparently, in which everyone got recasted again, and Bastion had to deal with possibly the most ferocious, evil, and conniving villain in existence, a very young Jack Black.
Yeah.
Tune in next time for the quick conclusion on Halloween night, the NeverEnding Story 3, Escape from Fantasia. See ya then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye bye.